Simulcast available on all the team's digital channels, so we are on the air. Looking forward to it. The next hour of Vegas Golden Knights talk, as well as updating you with what's going on in the first round of the Stanley Cup Playoffs. It's Daren Millard along with the Olympian Darren Eliot, coming off a 4-2 Vegas Golden Knights victory over the Minnesota Wild in Game 1 of the first round series. We'll get into the minutia of the game, some of the things that stood out to you. Darren Eliot will also be joined by a special guest, a member of the Vegas Golden Knights. It's down to two people. I don't know who's going to walk through the door behind us, but I'm excited because both will offer us great insight.
I think in the business they call that a tease. Well
Tease?
done. Well done.
Well, it's also very honest by me as well. We also would like to hear from you. Send us your questions, your comments through the chats at all the social media channels, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook. It's all there, as well as X, if we want to go down that path as well. It's the playoff version of Nighttime at Noon. After a 4-2 victory by the Vegas Golden Knights, which felt like a comfortable evening at the Fortress.
It did because of their defensive posture, as usual. They blocked 27 shots, didn't spend a lot of time in their own zone. I mean, the forecheck was there. A lot of hits delivered by the Wild, but I agree with you. It never felt like the game was in jeopardy, even when it got to 3-2. Not that a bounce here or there could change that, but it just never seemed like they got outside of how they wanted to play. I thought they were patient enough on offense. Coach Cassidy, after the game, said maybe they passed up on a few shots, so maybe a little too patient. But I thought overall, just what you would expect in a Game 1, a victory on home ice in a manner in which we've seen a power play goal and scoring throughout the lineup.
Yes, both special teams were impactful.
Yep.
5-on-5 game was good. Your goaltender was great. You defended really well. Like, it checked a lot of boxes for a game that you would have to say there's another level to go.
Yeah, and if you're the Minnesota Wild, you didn't like the outcome, but I think they're probably saying we can get to another level. Not sure that's true, but that's what they would think. That was a pretty stout road game by the Wild.
How do you think last night compares to the Game 1 victory a year ago in Dallas? Because there were so many questions about the team going into that series compared to what we've talked about in the lead up to this campaign.
So that you were looking for answers then, because there were questions. How guys coming back from injury, how quickly could they be assimilated back into the into the team, into the program? Could they get up to speed? And you win, but you lost the series, so maybe it didn't answer anything, and maybe last night didn't either.
Yeah, last year it felt like, they proved something to the Dallas Stars, to themselves, that they were going to be able to compete in a first-round series against the top seed in the Western Conference. Last night was more just delivering an expected result with a division winner against a wild card team.
And that's a good way of putting it, Mally, because it wasn't just there weren't those questions, right? There were only answers, and they just provided another answer. Yes, this is our level of play. This is our expectation. We're all healthy, and we're ready to go. And that's essentially what they stamped last night at the Fortress.
I loved what Pavel Dorofeev did on the power play, just seconds into the man advantage and converting that feed from Shea Theodore. And Brett Howden's rush was beautiful. But Tomas Hertl being able to lean on a stick and then turn around with the softest of hands and put that home showed us a range that very few players have and can do it within 12 feet.
You had the best line of that. It was, and he wins the faceoff, goes to the front of the net, anticipates, gets the two strides in, and then whistles it by the ear hole of Gustafsson, finds the back of the net. Lots of good things there. Arm strength, soft hands.
Soft hands.
It was
and he leaned on the stick.
Oh, I know.
It wasn't a stick lift and steal, the old Gretzky.
No.
Sneaky.
Here it is again. He wins it face up automatically to the front of the net and watch the two strides right there. He is already anticipating a puck battle before there's a puck battle. That's why he was able to win said
and
puck
the
battle.
turnover occurs before Gustafsson can really realize,
Right.
He's going to shoot that from there?
And found that space. At post game, Tomas Hertl saying you might try that 6-7 times and hit it once. I'd say that's a pretty high percentage actually for that small a window.
Well, it was the only place he could shoot.
Yeah.
From that angle. And everybody else was surprised at the puck and turnover. I'm not sure any of his line mates were even in a spot to take a pass.
No, and the goaltender obviously surprised as well. He was a little bit deep, went to the post integration instead of any kind of challenge, but still there wasn't much room to put that puck in, and Hertl fit it in.
Vegas never trailed last night. Feel good about their game. There's places that they can raise the level of the performance and the execution, but for a game number one, it's exactly what you wanted. It wasn't a feisty game. It wasn't a lot of scrums or anything like that.
Right. No, lots of hitting, and again, that doesn't intimidate or back off the Golden Knights. They're a big, heavy team. I think it was almost 2-1 in terms of hits, 54-29 or something like that. The official sheet said. But to me, if you're looking at Minnesota Wild, their hits were more okay. We'll just kind of finish our checks, not punishing. Mm-hmm. I thought the physical play, the punishing checks, heavy hitting, was done by the Vegas Golden Knights.
We got a couple of steps to go before things get really intense for a Stanley Cup playoff game. And what I mean by that is some face washes, some scrums. Didn't see a lot of that in the opening game. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll have our mystery guest on Nighttime at Noon. Also, want your questions, your comments about the opening game victory on all the Vegas Golden Knights social media channels. Let us know as we wind our way through YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, as well as X. Hey, Vegas Golden Knights fans, you want more Golden Knights content? Head over to the Vegas Golden Knights YouTube channel now and subscribe. You can watch all Access player videos, game highlights, and even our special VGK Origins. Subscribe to our channel today and stay up to date on all things VGK and revisit some of our greatest moments as the Golden Knights. Back with more right after this. Ever wanted to own a piece of Golden Knights history? VGK Authentics is the official channel for game-used items coming off the ice. From game-used pucks to game-worn jerseys and everything in between, owning something from your favorite Golden Knights player has never been so easy. Shop VGK Authentics on VegasTeamStore.com, at the Arsenal, at City National Arena, and VGK Authentics kiosk behind Section 10 at T-Mobile Arena during games. And you can scroll through and see all kinds of game-used items, as well as if you're just shopping for something for the playoffs. Get a new playoff hoodie, like I did the other day. Some game-used skates. Jack Eichel. Look at that. You can get Jack Eichel's game-used skates. Or Shea Theodore's skates.
Practice-worn pads, Daren Millard.
They are not practice. What, do they look brand new? Is there
there were 4 puck marks on them.
If there's a puck mark on them,
they
were not mine. Not at all. 4-game night in the National Hockey League. Waiting for our special guest to join us on nighttime at noon. Off the Vegas Golden Knights 4-2 victory over the Minnesota Wild. Tonight, the schedule offers up our first quad of the playoffs. St. Louis will try to even up its series against Winnipeg. And the Dallas Stars aim to pull even against the Colorado Avalanche. And then we have series openers between L.A., Edmonton, and Washington and Montreal.
I thought St. Louis, Winnipeg's forwards bailed out their goaltender. I think that's a huge move for them. They were down in the game. Neither Binnington or Hellebuck had their A game in particular. But given the narrative surrounding Winnipeg and their lack of success recently in the postseason, and Hellebuck's struggles last season comes to mind, and then follows it up with another Vezina Trophy winning season, which he did. The fact that his team bailed him out.
How did they bail him out?
Because you win and lose as a team. They scored goals in the third period to turn what looked like and could have been a disastrous loss at home.
I think about bailing somebody out or a goaltender out as they didn't play well and you scored enough goals to take them off the hook. You didn't think Hellebuck played well?
I didn't think he played that well.
2 of the goals were right off the joint of the crossbar and the post. Perfect shots.
I know, but I didn't think he was spot on. And again, losing 3-2 or 4-2 with an empty net goal versus your star players coming through and scoring, I just think that it gives him an opportunity to, okay, we're in this together. And I expect him to ascend to the level we've seen during the regular season. I think that was a big moment in that series.
What are you expecting out of L.A. and Edmonton for a 4th straight year?
Boy, that's a good one. I mean, there's a lot of animosity there. You saw the last game, which didn't really have all the players in play that will be in the series. I think it's going to be hard-fought, real close. That's the way LA likes to play it. And the lower the scoring, the better it is for the LA Kings.
I don't think people are giving Edmonton as much of a chance as they should be.
I agree with you. I mean, they've got we know who they have, but I also think
I know Ekholm's out and the goaltender struggled and they've battled through injury.
And that's this year. But I don't know, are they as deep as they even were last year?
They are not.
Right.
Not up front. So, one of the depth guys, Warren Fogle, plays for LA. And it's been really good there.
Right. So,
but I'm not going to argue against myself. I just think you got the 2 best players.
Right. No,
in the league.
For sure. I mean, it's not a, Kings in 5 or Kings sweep. It's a series. It's a pick'em. But all the indicators in this 4th successive playoff matchup, to me, points a little more favorably to the Kings than maybe the past 3 years.
Golden Knights will go back at it tomorrow for Game 2 of their series against the Minnesota Wild, and we've got a Game 3 watch party at the Boulevard Pool at the Cosmo. So check that out. Doors open at 5 o'clock. Puck drops just after 8 o'clock. So that's Game 3. That's for Game 3 for the Boulevard Pool at the Cosmo. Tomorrow night you can just go right over to T-Mobile Arena and watch it. But we got watch parties for Games 3 and 4 coming up for the Vegas Golden Knights. We saw Brett Howden playing the 4th line last night. Ivan Barbashev went up on the first line. There was some speculation that those two maybe flip.
Yeah, and I saw, after the penalty kill, because of the Barbashev was out there with um, Kolasar and Waugh, because Howden kills penalties. So there's situational usage, but by and large, 5-on-5, that's the way they went, and it paid off. Brett Howden was spectacular, and Barbashev did his thing with Jack Eichel and Mark Stone. They weren't as much of a factor in the game, but they had moments both as a trio and individually in game one.
I thought Mark Stone was good last night.
Yeah, I thought he was too. He had jump. He was using his hockey stick, magic wand, Swiss Army knife, whatever you want to call it, the way he steals pucks, to great effect in the neutral zone several times. So yeah, there's a difference there, right? Because their top line, Minnesota, they scored both goals. They were able to break through, and yet how did the Golden Knights? And that's something they'll focus on, certainly. But the Golden Knights used their depth and breadth of scoring to get the victory.
Nick Waugh, Keegan Kolasar, Brett Howden, they were a force.
They really were. And it's interesting because you put numbers on the lines, and it's usually based on special teams impacting numbers in terms of time on ice. And so there's your fourth line. And yet they score one of the prettiest rush goals of the night, and it ends up being the game-winning goal. So you have a 23 goal scorer on your fourth line. That's unheard of. And your centerman has 15, and the other winger has 12. That's a lot of goals from your quote-unquote fourth line.
How much offense are you expecting out of William Karlsson and Riley Smith and Brandon Saad? Because you can play that trio head-to-head with the Wild's number one line, or you could roll out Waugh and Howden and Kolasar or any of the other lines head-to-head.
And here's the goal we're talking about. There's Howden, fun, beautiful feed, center lane drive by Nick Waugh, and Howden head up the whole way. Same spot, off the elbow this time, going short side on Gustafsson. But I think they're used, Olsen, I thought, had a good game with Karlsson and Riley Smith. They're going to be used defensively first, I would think. That was a matchup they seemed to want. But the good news is, and Bruce Cassidy talked about it a little bit after the game, once you get on the road, you don't control the matchups. But he's very comfortable with any line against any line and any D pairing as well. Yes, at home, there's ones you think are favorable, so you not chase them, but you make sure that you get those matchups. Whereas on the road, that other way of looking at it is, doesn't matter who's out there. We're confident in them to do the job defensively.
Something I want to explore as we go along here is just the return to the Pietrangelo-Hanifin pairing last night, Whitecloud and Haig.
Yeah, I mean, it was, again, that's matchup, again, Bruce wouldn't tip his hand, but it was matchup related. And they saw something that they liked or didn't necessarily like, trying to shut down that top line. That was really, that is when you're playing Minnesota, you have to take care of Kaprizov and Boldy in particular from a goal scoring standpoint. And, Boldy scored twice. So they were tweaking it a little bit from the back end to mitigate that line's success.
How much adjustment do you think Minnesota can or is able to do?
Well, there's the difference when you talk about a team with depth that uses the depth. Like Bruce Cassidy loved last night's distribution of time on ice, right? When none of your forwards play 20 minutes, again, dictated a little bit by special teams or lack thereof, and your defense, again, 22 minutes at a max, whereas you had Matt Boldy, a forward, playing over 22 minutes. So Minnesota is quite dependent on their top line playing too much over the course of a series, potentially.
Saw a lot of $1 million flipper, as you call it.
I didn't come up with it. The late great Brad McCrimmon. That was his term for it.
What's the advantage of that by Minnesota? Because they didn't have a single odd man rush last night. And how can Vegas take advantage of that?
Well, they handled it very well. So back in the day, the $1 million flipper was really just to relieve pressure. Do you have the skill and the wherewithal to flip it up over everybody and relieve the pressure from your defensive zone? It's kind of morphed over the years into, okay, our weak side forward, once we have full possession, he breaks through the neutral zone. That backs off the defense of the opposition. Now the defenseman has to look up like he's a center fielder, handle the puck, and make a clean play. Not that easy to do. And so you're trying to set up odd man rushes with the $1 million flipper in today's hockey.
Yeah, there was a couple of games of 500 last night. They're in the neutral zone, and then right in front of goaltender Aiden Hill, where Zach Whitecloud reached up. And
That's right.
The ball coach would be like, "Hey, somebody's
got to call it.
Call that." Here's Bruce Cassidy, who joins us here in Studio 31. Did we got you all tangled up? How are you today?
I'm doing well. You?
Good.
We talking baseball?
Well, we were the Hill.
It was an infield.
White Cloud,
It was an infield fly. It was an
Was.
infield fly.
So would it have counted if it went in? If it's an infield fly?
Nobody ever practices that. Like, there's no.
I didn't know what the hell was going on, to be honest with you, because I lost sight of the puck, and then I was like, wait a minute. Anyway.
And the
no harm, no
goaltender
foul.
makes the move to go out and do it, and then there's a collision there. But we got on to it because of the flipper. The Minnesota uses the flip out a lot.
Well, that's a common practice today with a lot of teams. Hey?
What we were talking about back in the day, that was just to relieve pressure if you had the guts to do it. Now it's turned into a skate chase, turned into an odd man.
Well, it's
situation.
a strategy.
Yeah.
We saw it with Dallas last year in the playoffs against us quite a bit. If teams stay up at the blue line and pinch a lot, it's a great way to, sort of back them off and force them to. It's a harder play than you think for the D to collect the puck, find it, knock it down, make a play with it with a guy barreling down on you.
Is there a strategy to it from
you
the
can
defending
always
team?
You can always bat it forward, which if your team touches it, it's a hand pass, so you've killed the play. So there's for the team that flips it, there's no harm for them. What we try to do is if you feel like if you're going to play it sideways, because most of the teams that flip it out, when they leave the zone, they're coming directly through the middle of the ice at you. So if you at least bat it sideways with your stick, and we try to tell our next guy back, go to the wall. So maybe you trap two guys, get going right away. But, it's an effective strategy at times.
Yeah.
I think there's some forwards that after a while are like, well, what are we doing?
Well,
here?
they didn't have an odd man rush.
Are we going
last
to make
night.
a play? Exactly. We're going to make a play tonight, or are we just flipping pucks out all night and chasing it down? So there's a little bit of that goes into it. So I think it's like a lot of things. It's time and a place, situational, and use it when there's nothing else, or early on when there's heavy pressure on your team. And there's risk, right? You flip it over the glass. If you don't get exactly where you want it, that's a penalty. If you fan on it, you got everyone leaving the zone. And so there's a reason why it's not universal with every team. Anyway.
I think we know where you stand on it. We don't see our team do it very much.
I'm not a fan of it a lot, but I do believe we can use it a little bit more here and there. And the guys that do seem like Theo does a lot off face-offs, right? In our zone, he's got a touch that, he's got a little Mickelson in him. Like he can backspin with him. Where other guys, it's just a bit of it's a skill.
It is.
It is a skill, like to be able to execute the right height every time without icing it and get the right kind of distance, like a 30-yard wedge shot. I guess we're all golfers. Some of us. A little more frequent than others.
Why are you looking at me?
I see him on the range all the time.
Oh, yeah, he's
working on his game.
He goes to the range. Like, he goes and hits balls.
He looks like Gary Player, too, every time. He's all in black. And looking sharp. I digress anyway.
I was saying before you got joined us was the late, great Brad McCrimmon talked about the flipper, called it the $1 million flipper, for the very reason you talk about with Shea Theodore, because not everybody can do it. They don't have the confidence with all the action going on, especially off a face-off.
Yeah, it is. It's a skill, and I don't think you're going to see less of it anytime soon.
No, that's
especially with bad ice and people saying, well, let's just get it out, and simple hockey, all those terms, and so it's here to stay.
Arena staff doesn't like it. They bounce it off the scoreboard, and then you're replacing
Well,
boards.
that's the electricity bill is going like under the budget, right? Probably of that. So
Try and talk to a few topics that you didn't get questioned on last night after the game, but Victor Olofsson, he had it going last night for a while on that line. Just looks like he's found a home.
I think he's very comfortable in that line and what that line is trying to represent for us, which is pace, forecheck with your feet and stick. They're not big physical guys, so he's complemented by Smitty and Carly that way. Defensive assignments. We didn't know coming over from Buffalo, right, like how that would translate, the checking game. And I say that because the stats sometimes when you're not on a winning team can work against you. That's all. And you don't know, is it true or is it a product of the team, is it a product of the individual? So he comes over and he's been a good checking responsible forward since he's gotten here. He knows the game. And like most Swedish players seem to really been brought up that way to really understand the 200-foot game. And so he's going to, and we know Smitty and Carly can do that. They've been doing it for years. So I think that's the fit there. And he's a shooter, and those two like to make plays, so he can play to his strength too on the offensive side of things.
But you mentioned the defensive side of things. That's a top matchup line when you have the ability to do that.
Yes, we started them yesterday against Eriksson Ek, and they may see a lot of that matchup. Right. Now, we probably played every line against that
you did,
line
yeah.
at times, so it's not set in stone. But that's Carly's some of his best value in the playoffs.
Right.
If he can neutralize the top line, it gives an advantage to the other line. Now that line got 2 goals last night. Not putting it on any particular line or deep pair, but in general, that's an advantage we see we could use, and we'll exploit it again and again until it doesn't work for us.
You put your D pairs back to what we saw at the start of the season with Hanifin and Pietrangelo and Whitecloud and Haig. A little bit of a different look from the start of the game.
Yeah, we just did that to annoy the broadcasters so when they make their notes.
You should see us scrambling up there.
Oh my gosh!
Is it a change?
No,
they are together.
Is it a line change?
No, we had a little chat before the game. Johnny runs the D, John Stevens, and said, "What about this? So we can get our deep, without getting too much into our deep pair with our forward line that we prefer as well, and then still get the matchup against." So we just made a switch, and you'll probably see that one happen quite a bit. And it's not new to the pairs, right? Like Naber and Theo, if we started messing with them maybe a little bit, but they've been together. But Hager's played with Whitecloud a lot, Hanifin's played with Petro, so it's an easy switch that way. And neither pair should be sort of saying, well, wait a minute, what's going on all of a sudden? It's a simple explanation. Let's go play.
Well, you made a joke about the media. I got to ask you, because you're so good with us and with the media, and your answers are so insightful. Your post-game media approach over the years, how has it changed as a coach?
I've tried not to change. I've always tried to answer a question honestly and respectfully. Some of them, listen, there's going to be times during the year they catch you on a bad day where you're annoyed about something, but I try not to take it out on them. And I'll tell you why, especially the guys that are there every day, they got to grind. They grind like we do. They're there every day. They got to write about something or talk about something. So, I listen, I appreciate that. I'm a hockey junkie, and they're out there trying to do their part. So that's how I feel about it.
We appreciate it, by the way.
Yeah, and sometimes honesty can bite you, if you're a little bit. So I've tried to temper maybe some of that when it comes to maybe an individual play or not. But I still, in my brain, I'm just going over the play. It's not personal. You know what I mean? When it comes, and then they'll be like, well, you kind of gave it to this player. I'm like, well, I was just describing the play, what happened. Didn't mean anyway. And then you're kind of, you
have good recall. I can't believe how much you come back and everything is from the bench, because sometimes you don't have the best view from behind the bench.
No, I guess I was blessed with that. I got a memory, so I'll try to hang on to it. They say crossword puzzles has a lot to do with it. I did them for years.
You went down that path again the other day.
Someone asked me that. I haven't done them in a while, and I kind of missed them, to be honest with you. So anyway, yeah, so that's my with the media. I've always felt well, and I like to talk hockey too. So it's not like I'm sitting there looking at my watch. Hey, it's 5 minutes. I got to get. I don't mind. I don't mind talking hockey. Yeah.
Been a lot of goals so far in the playoffs.
Yes, and our game, I think, went as I thought it would. I don't think there's going to be a high scoring series. I don't anticipate that if teams stay true to form. I think the Winnipeg St. Louis could be. I think both those teams are. Although Winnipeg is, St. Louis really tightened it up the second half of the year. Winnipeg is tight, but I just have a feeling there could be goals in that series. Colorado, you're going to have to score some to beat them. So, what was the other series? Toronto and Ottawa. I don't think that's going to be that high scoring. I don't think we'll see another 6-2 personally. What was the other? Carolina
4-1, and Carolina had 40 shots.
Well, that's
they
Carolina.
always do. Yeah.
That's anything at the net there towards the net is a shot. So I heard Sheldon Keefe after says you can't watch the shot clock in Carolina. He's right. You just can't. Now they are a high volume shooting team, so they're always going to be up there. Yeah. But it's like you look up and there's 3 or 4 more every time, no matter what goes on there. So you got to be don't let that kind of cloud your judgment on how your team's playing sometimes there.
How much did Tomas Hertl look different than he did in Game 1 last year, or start of the playoffs?
Well, significantly different simply because of he was recovering from an injury first, only played, I think, 4 games, was in a new position. He was playing left wing, then center. Stevie were moving them. So he was trying to find his way in a team, find his own personal game, play Vegas Knights hot. You know what I mean? After being so long in San Jose, there's just things you got to think through. So he's had now a full year to adjust to that. So I think he'd be the first to tell you it's probably just more comfortable in his own skin in every area.
And comfortable. Saad comes in. Dorfier's been with him all year. That trio seems pretty comfortable.
This year is just one of those, like the 2 new guys. Saad comes in and it's like, okay, you think, okay, we're going to play here, here, here. You slide him in and it's a fit. It's a fit right away. Smitty, we kind of knew he could play with Carly, so
took longer than you thought. Maybe.
No matter where we put him, we knew we could go back to that. And
right.
So there's your 2 new acquisitions that are in fairly quickly. So, whereas I think last year it took a little longer with Mantha was new, and then with Hertl's injury.
Right.
So that's not an excuse. That's just a reality that in close games and tight games, a little bit of familiarity can go a long way to make an extra play or 2.
Where can you be better or tighter tomorrow night?
Off the rush with Kaprizov's line, we had numbers on both goals, and they found the weak side eventually, so we have to be mindful of that. We can be better with getting pucks to the net for second chances with our layered tipping, so to speak. One guy at the net front, one in the slot. I thought Minnesota does a real good job of recovering back to the house. They're like us that way. They try to get back to the slot first and work from there. So to recover pucks there, you need someone in the slot, not 2 guys in front of the goalie, right? Like sometimes, let's get to the net. Okay, yes, but we need someone in the slot to recover pucks because all their guys are there. So we need to be spaced a little better. Those are a couple of the areas. There's always other things. Face off. We weren't strong in the circle last night. Minnesota during the season didn't have great numbers, yet Eck misses 40-some games, and he's the driver of their. Would he take 30 draws?
Yeah.
So those numbers maybe you can't completely go on and say, well, they're not that good on it. Well, they miss him when he's out. But that's an area. Then okay, if we're not going to be. We're going to win then what are we doing? How can we cover it quicker and get a puck back? So let's be jumping on defense to get a puck back or helping on the 50-50 ones.
Talk about being a hockey junkie. I'm going to go back to during the playoffs. How much is it? Can you still be a fan and watch the other series?
Yeah. I do. I watch I'm watching it, first of all, the other night when it started to see how the officials are calling the game. First and foremost, are they tight? And there was penalties. So we expected penalties. We also got 2 teams that don't take a lot with us in Minnesota, so I wasn't surprised. You can always argue they missed 1 or 2 here or there, but I don't think you'd say, oh, geez, they let everything go last night. Then tonight I will probably tune into a few of the games as well. LA and Edmonton for sure, because we're anticipating playing the winner of that if we take care of our business. So get a head start on watching that. The early games, Washington, Montreal. Who's the other early one? Is it Winnipeg again in St. Louis?
Yep.
Anyway, there's no shortage.
We get 4 tonight.
Great time of year.
First time.
If I can win the remote in the house, I'm all set.
Do you have your own TV, or do you have to negotiate that?
That's personal information, Darren. We have a couple TVs in the house, and Cole loves hockey, so there's a 50-50 chance right there we'll get one of the TVs. I don't care which one, to be honest. So, yes, we will get one of the TVs.
Sorry to pry. I
That's
apologize.
Okay. I'm not sure what's on at that hour for the ladies. Shannon's not much into TV, I got to say. That's more Julie's thing. So, teenage girls, they're up in their room and they're,
Watch TV, they watch their laptop.
YouTube
it's
and
TikTok,
yeah.
it's FaceTime with their friends and stuff like that. So you don't have to usually fight with Shannon for the TV.
You're a big TikToker, right?
I get sent TikToks by my kids, and that's it. I don't have the app. I thought it went silent. Is it back?
It's back. It's back. Good luck tomorrow night. Congratulations on the Game 1 win.
All right, thanks.
Thanks for doing this as always.
There's Bruce Cassidy with us on Nighttime at Noon. Don't you wish you could keep up the VGK right with the touch of your screen? Well, now you can with the official mobile app of the Vegas Golden Knights. You can scan, buy, transfer tickets, play new exclusive games across live stats, receive game updates, and so much more. The official mobile app of the Vegas Golden Knights is available now on your smartphone through the App Store and Google Play. Back with more with Darren Eliot on Nighttime at Noon. Golden Knights won Game 1 of the first-round series against the Minnesota Wild. A playoff single-game ticket still on sale at VegasGoldenKnights.com. So come cheer on your Golden Knights as they look to take a 2-0 lead in the series. The 2025 playoffs are for the realm. Buy yours today before they're gone. And once we get into Game 3, we will have that watch party over at the Cosmo, the Boulevard Pool at the Cosmo, and looking forward to that. I love the watch parties when I can get out there.
Yeah.
First round, Scripps Sports has the game, so
Right.
We're a little bit tied up. I was reading the promo going into the last break when Bruce was leaving, and he stuck his hand right on the script.
He was
entertaining himself.
He was, because we're thanking him and his relationship with the media, and then he's
like, he's doing this.
pulling a 7th grade stunt.
He's like, did I throw you off there? Yeah. Yeah, in fact, I don't even know what I said. I just tried to keep on talking so he didn't think that he got to me. The idea of what they can improve, did that work with what you were anticipating?
More detailed, more precise, certainly. I mean, that's one of the things that when you talk to Bruce Cassidy and the guys on the coaching staff, the level of detail, if we lose a draw, how do we get in a position to get the puck back quicker? Like that, it's down to that. It's not like you win or lose a draw, and that's the end of what they're talking about. It's like, okay, if we anticipate that they're going to be better on faces than we thought because Eriksson Ek is in there and he's good on draws, then we better adjust to make sure our routes are right in the shooting lanes. Do we get there quicker? All those kinds of things. Always learn something when Bruce talks hockey.
What did the faceoffs end up last night?
It was, I think, 60-40, right around there. There were 31 faceoffs in the first period.
Yeah.
If you missed the game, fast forward to the second period, because it was pretty choppy.
60-40 Minnesota.
Yes.
But Vegas scored 2 goals directly off faceoffs, which shows you that it's
right.
The timing of it. You can't just judge faceoffs in a
Right.
general umbrella.
Well, and Tomas Hertl was the best, and he was 50%. But his face, we showed already for those watching on many of the platforms, it was an offensive zone faceoff, and he wins it, and they won one on the faceoff. He won it on the power play. He won it on his goal. So those are the two. He was the one that won both the faceoffs and led directly to goals.
What would concern the teams around the Stanley Cup playoffs as they watch Vegas last night and look at the Golden Knights and wonder, that they're back where they were a couple of years ago? What area of the game that impressed you?
Well, they didn't give up a rush chance, right?
So there's puck support by the wingers, by the forwards. Yeah.
Right. So getting in, so you're going to have to chip it in, and then the defense are big, fast, they're mobile. Wingers are disciplined along the walls. The fact that they gave up, I think it was 21 at one time, maybe 20 shots against, mostly to the outside. Oh, and by the way, when they do finally get it, for a half a dozen quality scoring chances, Aiden Hill was excellent. So it's a complete game, and the team does not beat itself very often. What I mean by that is they don't aid and abet the opposition's attack. Once in a while, some puck management in the neutral zone, but very rarely. There was very little of that last night. They were on point. Carry it when you can, dump it into a good spot in the offensive zone when you have to, and go get the puck.
We have plenty of questions coming in, so we'll get to those comments from
They're all for
our
Bruce,
fans.
though. So he's gone. Sorry.
Now, the other person that was like right in schedule, we were talking, was it going to be Brett Howden or was it going to be Bruce Cassidy? And we could have went with either one of them because Brett Howden scores a couple of goals, including that last second empty netter. But it was the rush chance and the confidence that he has to be able to put the puck where he wants to put it now is so different than a couple of years ago. Because
he came in as got traded as a young player. It was hard for him to find his footing. Rangers, Tampa. He looked skittish as a player when he got here, because the expectations were that he was going to be a scorer, and it didn't happen to the degree that people thought it would. Put in the work, and on this goal, I want everyone to watch who can see his head up the whole way. his speed has always been there. His shot has always been there. He's put it together this season beautifully. And it's so nice to see because, again, what a nice guy. It didn't just happen. It happened because of the work put in. And, to me, if you're going to have to play a defenseman like Faber 25 minutes a night, your top line 22 minutes a night, that plays into the hands, really, of what makes the Vegas Golden Knights strong. You're not going to be able to beat them with just 4 or 5 guys because of their depth, because of Brett Howden playing on the quote-unquote fourth line and now has 25 goals this season.
Leo from YouTube asks, what matchup outside of Vegas versus the Wild is most intriguing to you guys?
You can answer first. I haven't thought about it. Which one is?
Oh, that's what you want. You want just a couple of seconds? You want a timeout? There's a timeout on the floor. Toronto, Ottawa jumps out to me.
Well, Battle of Ontario.
I haven't seen it in so long.
Right. And to me, it's I'll go with the opposite then. Edmonton, L.A. Can the Kings turn the tide and win a series after losing 3 times in a row?
Duff Valley from YouTube. Who do you think in future rounds could give us the biggest problem? Whoever's next. Like, it's just there's no easy rounds in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
That's a really good answer. Doesn't say anything, but it's a good answer. But Colorado is impressive to me, the way they remade their entire roster during the course of a season. The goaltending, everything they've done, and they were already dangerous. I just think they're, in the West in particular, I think they're the next biggest hurdle. No pun intended.
Samantha asks from X, what moment in sports will you never forget? That's sports. Now that is a good question.
You can take the time out this time. There's so many.
I saw Tiger Woods hit a 6-iron over the water at the 2000 Canadian Open, the year that he won the British, he won the U.S. Open.
Wow.
And that was to win the Canadian Open, the 3 national championships. That's one of the greatest shots I've ever seen live.
Yeah, I got to follow him at the U.S. Open, Oakland Hills in Detroit. It was like 95-ish. Mm-hmm. So he was already out of, so there was not even that many people following him because he was out early and going around. But I remember, this wasn't the memorable answer, but I remember it since you brought up Tiger Woods.
You're just trying to one-up me with more Tiger Woods memories?
No, to me, memorable sports that you were part of. But if I think of, what, to me, hoisting the Stanley Cup here on the Plaza, I got to say, it was so emblematic of what I've done with, during my lifetime. To be able to do that was,
nothing beats that.
It doesn't.
I was lucky enough to be in the rink for 2 Olympic finals, Canada beating the United States in Salt Lake City in 2002.
Right.
There was all kinds of storylines there, but then 2010 in Vancouver with an overtime goal with Sidney Crosby. Oh, Joey from Twitch wants to know, what's your guys' favorite part about broadcasting? The food. The free food. It's honestly, when I was starting to get into the business, I was still playing a little hockey, and then I got hurt, and I started helping out our radio guy, Steve Adamski, and you got free popcorn up there. I thought, this is great. And it's never changed. I've always appreciated the food.
I've never seen you eat popcorn. But
well, you know why? I also learned later on in my career, popcorn when you're working a game is not good.
It's not ideal.
It gets stuck in there.
Gets stuck in your teeth. For me, it's been a way to stay connected. Lots of different ways for me to come to the rink. I make that joke. I make as many ways for me to come to the rink as I possibly can. Broadcasting is my favorite, and it keeps me connected with the game I love, a game I've spent my life in.
A couple more questions coming up, but first we'll take a break. Nighttime at Noon continues on Fox Sports Las Vegas and all of the VGK social media channels.
Oh, I was supposed to say working with you.
Back on Nighttime at Noon and Fox Sports Las Vegas, Daren Millard along with Darren Eliot. I mentioned that shot by Tiger Woods out of the bunker, the 6-iron over the water in 2000, and Ron's found it. Look, if you're watching the stream, it's
this
there.
is
Look,
unbelievable.
all you see is water and sand, and way in the background is the green. He's got to carry that whole thing. Only during this period of his career would he even attempt this shot. And this was at Glen Abbey, just outside of Toronto.
Gorgeous course.
And he puts it right on the back of the green because he said, I didn't want to be a little bit short. Well, there's like 40 feet of wiggle room on that thing.
That you only saw sand and water. I saw a bunch of people that were in peril if I was in that situation.
So the story about that is they had to put a marshal out in that bunker for years because everybody that came through would hit their own ball, but then they go over and drop a ball in the bunker and see if they could hit the Tiger Woods shot.
Man. Not many could.
Stevie Williams, that was the caddy for Tiger Woods, who I can't believe let him hit that shot. But that's one of my great memories in sports. We got 4 games tonight in the Stanley Cup playoffs. First look at Edmonton and Los Angeles, Montreal and Washington also on the ice, and then Game 2. The Winnipeg Jets will try to take a 2-0 series lead, and Colorado can expand on its advantage. They'll try to do what Vegas did last year and win the first 2 on the road against the Stars.
Yeah, and Dallas, their coach after the game, Pete DeBoer, was talking about that was the best game they played in weeks. Well, they've lost 9 in a row. Mm-hmm. So he might have been telling the truth. But the 5-1 score, you and I talked about it, maybe a little closer.
There's some empty there.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. And so it'll be a big game for Dallas against Colorado tonight.
And for the St. Louis Blues, they've had a remarkable run since the Four Nations face-off, and they can be behind the 8 ball in a real hurry.
Yeah, they can, and they came out trying to hit everything, and it worked for them for 40 minutes. Their energy level and effectiveness that way waned in that game, so it'll be interesting to see how much energy they approach this game 2 in Winnipeg.
Game 3, Vegas against Minnesota, will take place in St. Paul. That will feature a watch party at the Boulevard Pool at the Cosmopolitan. Cast appearances, giveaways, opportunities to win tickets to a future Golden Knights game. And should also mention tomorrow night's Game 2 is an 8 o'clock start in Vegas. So it's a 7:30 pregame show on Scripps Sports, an hour later than normal. Will you be able to stay up?
I'll have to take a nap. The rest of you, pregame.
I can't believe you could ever nap. With the
That's
amount
true.
of coffee that you consume, I find it biologically impossible for you to be able to take a nap.
I'll have to tomorrow. I have to get up at 4 a.m. to take Avery to the airport.
Daughter making it a visit to Las Vegas. Golden Knights look for a 2-0 series lead. More on the Vegas Golden Knights on Fox Sports Las Vegas at 4 o'clock with the VGK Insider Show.